Man, it has felt like forever, bro. I haven't streamed in forever because I was in Lake Tahoe with my sons and we stayed at this place that like had no AC. So they gave us fans. The fans blow around hot air. And the Wi-Fi was wide die. I mean, it was die-fi. That joint was dead. I mean, you couldn't, it was terrible. So I couldn't make a video. But shouts to everybody that's joined the live stream, joined us, subscribed since Ruslan, since I've been on the Ruslan show. I appreciate that. We're gonna jump into something, man, because I feel like I got a lot to talk about, but I can't do it all in one joint. We'd be here for hours, man. This is my first live stream in a minute. But let's get to this, man. The Olympics. I'm finally at a place where I actually have good Wi-Fi. I've been at a place that had Wi-Fi all week. It's been crazy. Terrible over there. I don't know what this is 21st century, fam. How do you not have good Wi-Fi, man? It's ridiculous. Haven't streamed in forever. But look, so the Olympics, man, opening ceremony at the Olympics. A lot of people, I didn't see it. I didn't catch it because I've been just moving and shaking, traveling. I wouldn't watch the opening ceremony anyway because that's just not. I don't care personally, but that's just me, right? But I've been seeing these people talk about it's been satanic, anti-Christian. So we're gonna watch a couple seconds of a video. I have seen some clips and I've been like, oh. But I think the thing that's the most surprising to me is not the anti-Christian sentiment. I think it's to some degree the reaction to it. And it could just be that I don't know. Maybe I just think differently about these things, and maybe I should be more outraged on one level. Maybe I should be, but I'm not. But let's watch what this guy is talking about real quick, and then I'm going to give you the reason why probably I'm not as outraged as other people are. There was another pastor, really popular YouTube channel, who was basically going in like this is a demonic. We basically hitting the Ephesians 6, we do not wrestle with flesh and blood, all this. And I agree with that 100%. I think I mean, 2 Corinthians 4 calls Satan the God of this world, right? But listen to what this guy's saying. He's big YouTube channel. I just ran into, he just popped up on my feed. I don't even know who he is, but this is what he's saying. I thought this was pretty interesting to see. I don't know if you guys watched the opening ceremony of the Olympics, but listen, this is what he's talking about. Let's watch this real quick. Let's see what he says.
Footage here, and I'm just going to kind of break it down for you the way I see it. I might be wrong, but I've written a book on the Antichrist. I've written a book on the apocalypse, written a book on Old Testament typology, New Testament. I think I have a pretty good eye for things that are satanic, things that are part of the occult. So top left, we just got, hey, let's worship a golden calf. All right. You don't need a PhD to get this one, my friends. And if you agree with me, hit the like button. Not that you like worshiping golden calves, but I think you can see we've got a golden calf there. Golden calf in the Christian tradition evokes the initial betrayal of Aaron and the people of Israel betraying Moses, betraying the Lord God, and worshiping a golden calf. It's the ultimate I hate you, God. Top right, we got some, wearing clothes that pertain opposite to what your biological identity is. And there's a picture that I can't show. Someone posted.
If you're watching live or later, let me know if y'all saw all this stuff. I didn't see the opening ceremony, but I've seen a couple videos of people talking about it. And I think this is really fascinating on one level. If this is the opening ceremony and these are the different things, but let's I'm gonna let him keep talking for a couple more minutes, and then we're gonna talk about how should we react. Not how should we as if I got it figured out, but just a couple thoughts.
a screenshot of the opening ceremonial games of a person dressed in women's clothing and said, "Hey, Olympic Games, why did my children need to see?" And then they named a reproductive organ. And of course, I can't post this, and it's gross. It's disgusting, but it would be, for those of you that are wondering, I'll be delicate here for delicate ears. It would be the sack. All right, it's hanging out of the costume, bouncing around, and that's on live TV on the Olympic Games. It just doesn't make any sense. It's not decent. It's not Christian. It's not even in conformity with the norms of natural law for proper behavior and, not exposing your procreative organs. So I know there's people out, gee, Taylor, just let them be. It's France. We're just going to have some games, run some races. Olympic Games, it's fun, chill. Well, I'm not going to chill, because this is an attack on Jesus Christ, and it's an attack on Christians. We are the body of Christ. Now, I've already gone over the one bottom left here. This is the woman who's sort of wearing this halo at the center of the table. I'm not going to assume the gender, but again, this is a mockery of the Last Supper. And if you're coming in and joining us late, by the way, please share this video, hit the share button. If you're on Twitter, retweet. If you're on Facebook, share it. If you're on YouTube, hit the share button and share it on Facebook. But in case you're coming in late, here's sort of the side by side, all right, of what they're trying to accomplish. And again, I can't show the video because they're already doing cease and desist for people doing it.
All right, so this is crazy, right? So what you get is clear, outright mockery of Christianity, right? Of what we believe, the symbols that matter to us. You don't see this. You don't see them doing that to Islam, though. Let them mock the Prophet Muhammad, though. You don't see that happen. You don't see them mocking the Prophet Muhammad. You don't see them mocking anything that has to do with religions other than Christ. And we get why, right? I mean, 2 Corinthians 11 tells us that Satan appears as an angel of light. So he and his servants appear as servants of righteousness, right? So we understand that if you're a believer and you know your Bible, you understand that, like, even that, I've said this before, let me say this really quickly. The reason why most religions have morality, right? Even though we know that they're anti-Christian, they're satanic, the reason why they have morality, like why Satan appears as an angel of light, of righteousness, is because he has to submit to the way that God has created humanity. God has created humanity who are made in his image, right? So we have certain communicable attributes that we have been given by God. There's a reason why even non-Christians want to do good, right? They want to do good in the world. They want to do good in society, right? Paul said in Acts 17 that God created the world in such a way that people would search for him and find him, right? So there is a sense where innate within humanity is this desire to do good. You have some outliers like serial killers and just people who are just wild. But for the most part, most non-Christians desire to do some good in society. Even though no good works can ever earn someone salvation, people desire to do good works, right? So Satan has to work within the confines of the way that God created humanity, because he created us in his image. Satan can try to recreate, but he can't take that away. He can't take that image bearer stamp. There's an image bearer reality that all people have, which is why even non-Christians who reject Jesus still sometimes do things that represent what the fruits of the Spirit are, right? So that's why most religions are not like, go kill, destroy, kill everyone, blow up the world. No, because Satan doesn't have a problem with morality. He has a problem with morality that is trying to glorify Jesus, that's imitating Jesus and obeying Jesus. doesn't have a problem with morality, right? So that's why the religions are there. They're not attacking any other religions because all the other religions belong to him anyway. He doesn't need to attack them. So we need to understand that that's just our reality, right? If you're a believer, if you're a genuine professing Christian in Jesus Christ, then you're going to see more and more of this. I think, now I didn't watch his whole video because it's an hour. And there's another pastor who I think has a really popular channel who's really upset at this. And I realized I didn't watch it. And I do get a little bothered by these things. But I think what I'm more bothered by is that believers are actually talking as if we're shocked by this, like we're blown away by this. Like, and this is, this, man, I'm not doing a super long video today, but there's a lot. I haven't done a video in days because I was in a place that had Wi-Fi instead of Wi-Fi. That Wi-Fi was dead. So I have a lot to talk about, but I'll just say this and then move to the scripture I want to look at. I think part of the maturity of being a believer, I think, is understanding. Like, so remember this scene where Jesus said, you all can interpret the signs of it, like if it's cloudy, it's going to rain. If it's not, he says you all can interpret that, but you can't interpret the sign of the times, right? In other words, that the Messiah is here. You can't put it together. And I think part of what it means to be a believer and to even be mature on some level is to understand like the sign of the time, like what world are we living in? And I think a lot of believers, particularly in America, I don't watch a lot of videos from Christian content creators that are outside of America. And a lot of American pastors, content creators, or whatever, they're somewhat blown away and shocked by the rise of the anti-Christian sentiment. And I think I would say if you were to look at American history, you would see the anti-Christian sentiment all over it, but we masked it with other things. There were sins that we were comfortable with in many ways that when we look back on aren't as bad as like a man dressing outside of his biological gender or a woman. Like those are the real bad ones, but these ones are not that bad, right? All this stuff, right? I think for us, if we're going to survive in this new sort of, I don't think it's new, but I'll say that because people are reacting as if like, and sure, it's new for the Olympics to do this. Absolutely. It was kind of wild. And that's a world stage, right? The Olympics are in Paris. It's not in America, right? So that's a world stage that this is happening on, right? Now, I didn't watch it, so I don't know. Maybe there's some Olympics that had like, oh, well, this was the American version. This was the Paris version. The opening Olympics, everyone watches it, right? So this is a world stage. This isn't an American thing, right? So it's not like America is mocking. America's been mocked Christ, to be honest. But I think for many of us, we need to be careful to stop being so surprised and start being more prepared. Like instead of, I've said this verse plenty of times on this channel, 2 Timothy 3:12, indeed, all who desire to live a godly life will be persecuted. If you desire to live godly, you're going to be persecuted. The scripture doesn't say, well, if you're in this country, you won't be. But somewhere along the line in America, we actually believed that we are a Christian nation, and the anti-Christian sentiment is something that we don't allow. And it's like, well, fam, and this is what happens when you compare America to other countries. We look more Christian and godlier than them. But when you compare America to the scriptures, we're just as ungodly as anybody else, on one level. So I think a lot of times believers, pastors, people with big platforms, warned, yes, we need to know this is an anti-Christian world and it's spiritual warfare. We need all that, right? But on one level, should you be surprised by this, right? I don't think we should be surprised or offended. We need to be prepared. Listen to what Jesus said. Jesus said something, and he was talking to his disciples specifically, right? So we get that. Jesus was talking to his disciples, but he said something that I think is paradigmatic for all of us. This is what he said, right? That's the wrong one. I don't want to go to that one. Let's go here. All right. Here's what he says, right? This is John 15. This is what Jesus says out of his own mouth. He's talking to his disciples, and he says this: if the world hates you, know that it has hated me before it hated you. If you were of the world would love you as its own. But because you were not of the world, but I chose you out of the world, therefore the world hates you. Remember the word that I said to you, A servant is not greater than his master. If they persecuted me, they will persecute you also, right? They will also persecute you. If they kept my word, they will also keep yours. But all these things they will do to you on account of my name, because they do not know him who sent me. If I had not come and spoken to them, they would not have been guilty of sin. But now they have no excuse for their sin. Whoever hates me hates my Father also, right? This is the thing we have to realize. So Jesus, in context, he was talking to his disciples just before he was about to die. And he wanted them to know, listen, if the world hates you, know that it hated me before you, right? It's kind of the thing like, because God made the commandments and the laws, every time you break them vertically before you do it horizontal. This is why in Psalm 51, David was like, against you and you only have I sinned. Well, that's not true, David. You sinned against a lot of people when you had sex with Bathsheba, right? So there's a sentiment that I think has hindered many believers who are, I think, inappropriately shocked at these things. Like I don't have it all figured out. I have many flaws and weaknesses, of course. But when I see these things, I expect that to happen. Like when I talk to my kids, I'm like, yeah. Like last night, for instance, right? We were at a dinner downtown San Francisco, great restaurant. And we don't see this a lot in DC where we're at, like where we live. We don't see in the Maryland, DC suburb. We don't see it a lot, but this was clearly a biological man looking like a woman who was serving us. We were very nice to him, very kind. And I actually, it's funny, over the years, I've grown in compassion towards people. I used to be grossed out by stuff, and I used to think like, and I would want to, but now when I saw this individual, I thought, wow, they're really lost. And they're really lost in ways that, and I just had compassion. So it was very kind to the individual. Thank you so much, man. Instead of being like gross. And I think, and that's not coming from like, oh, I'm so godly. It's coming from me reading the scriptures a lot, thinking about what we're supposed to be known for, and then trying to implement that, right? And I think as I see this happening, here's the real issue. If you're a believer, hear me on this. The people that are anti-Christian, they have way more problems than how they dress, how they identify as, what songs they sing, who they promote. They have way, way, way more serious problems than that. They're in eternal danger, right? Like when they take their last breath, it is a wrap for them. And unless they, come to find Jesus, and often the way they're going to come to find Jesus is people who know Jesus, who are willing to tell them about Jesus, despite the possible persecution and things that may come from it. Now, I didn't share the gospel with the person last night. It was a restaurant. It was busy. We were outside. It's cold in San Francisco. It was a lot going on. But this is in my mind. And I feel like in many ways, the world that we live in, we've been actually deceived into thinking that there is a Christianese morality to it, that we should, and we're fighting to keep that through the political realm. And then we're getting more and more offended that people aren't subscribing to that. And it's like, well, why should they? Like, they're not believers. That's what 1 Corinthians 5 is about. But this is what Jesus said. And when he said that, he said, remember, if the world hates you, remember that it hated me first. Like that. This is what's going to happen in Jesus's worldview, in his teaching of the future from all passages, Matthew 24. So this is what we're going to experience. We're going to see more and more of anti-Christian sentiment. It's not a left. These aren't leftist policies. These aren't right-wing extremism. This is just, we do not wrestle with flesh and blood. Satan has an agenda. He is allowed. Remember, the devil is God's devil, right? Everything that we see that we're like, he was like, we need calm down. The God that you worship, the God that you serve, is allowing Satan to have that authority. He's allowing the Olympics to demonstrate an anti-Christian sentiment. He's allowing that, right? Just like God allowed David, after he was chosen to be the next king after Saul, to experience significant hardship from Saul and others before taking the kingship, right? It's not like every blessing comes with no challenges. And I think if you and I are going to make it in this world, if you're going to raise children in this world, you can't raise children but just by pointing out everything that's demonic, because you can do that almost everywhere you go. You got to help your kids see. You got to believe that, hey, listen, this is a system of the world that God is in control over, what we like to call sovereign, and he is allowing evil to have its way, allowing these things to happen for a greater cause. Sometimes we understand it, sometimes we don't. But when these things rise up, when these things develop, when they happen, it's God is letting his people know, hey, be alert, be aware, be on your game. But it's supposed to enact mission, not submission, right? We're not supposed to be, and it was supposed to be bravery, not fear. You're supposed to be willing to be bold for Christ, because you know that what you're, if you genuinely believe that, if you genuinely believe that, then you're supposed to be bold for the Lord. And I don't mean bold like in people's faces fighting, but not to be afraid of persecution and suffering. And I would say that a lot of what's happening, even in American politics from believer side, is not that we should let the world just do whatever. No, we live in a country where we're allowed to vote, do those things, vote. But there is this almost a fear of persecution and a fear of suffering that I just think it may be un-American. It may not be un-American, but I think it's unchristian. It may not be, it's all underlying is fear. Like, okay, so the Olympics did that. So what? Like on one level, so what? Like, it's not like my kids are watching, like, wow, Poppy, I really want to go to the Olympics. Like, on one level, like, we should expect that to happen more and just allow us to pray for the world, pray for that God would give us boldness, pray for that, because believers have always been attacked. Think about this from the Old Testament to the New. When are God's people, whoever they profess to be, whether you're the nation of Israel or you're Christians, when have we ever been the majority culture? When have we ever not been attacked for what we believe? Right? From the beginning of bringing, when think about this. When God brought the Israelites across the Red Sea, they were immediately attacked by the Amalekites. Now, everyone had saw and heard what God did to the Egyptians. They knew that. Remember when they got to Rahab and Jericho, and she told them that they all heard about what God did, and they were melting with fear? But the Amalekites attacked they were the first nation to attack Israel. And so in 1 Samuel 15, God told Saul, I want you to go kill all the Amalekites, because I remember what they did when they attacked my people Israel, right? They should have not attacked, because they knew, like, whoa, these people did whatever God they served, destroyed the Egyptians, and the Egyptians were the world power at the time. But they did it, right? There's always going to be opposition against God's people, because we're the people that Satan wants to defeat the most. But Jesus said the gates of hell will not prevail. So I'm not saying don't be concerned. I'm not acting like this stuff doesn't bother me. What I'm not is surprised, and what I'm not is afraid. I think those may be American, but they're not Christian. They're not, we shouldn't be that way, because this is so the Olympics, do you, fam? You have bigger problems than a biological man dressing opposite of his how he was born, and showing his and seeing his body parts showing. Yes, terrible. No one wants to see that. Well, some people do. I don't, and most people don't. But the reality is like, fam, what does that change about Christ and him crucified? What does that change about your faith? What God is doing is saying, hey, this is the mission field is getting bigger and bigger. So here's the question you have to ask. And I think most Christians would say the right answer, but I think functionally what we believe, what we actually do is the opposite. Do you think they are the mission field, the people who are glorifying, who are antichrist? Because it's not just antichrist, it's people demonstrating it, right? So who are those people to you? Are they the mission field or the battlefield? Most Christians will say, no, they're the mission field, but you treat them like they're the battlefield. All them people who were the whole agenda that they're celebrating, man, when those people stand before God, it's a wrap. It's going to be terrible for them. And that should make believers have compassion. And I'm not saying like compassion means like don't oppose. Nah. I'm just saying, like, I just feel bad for these folks, man. I'm not, you can parade and do all you want, fam. At some point, Hebrews 10 said it best. It is a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living God. They got way deeper problems in how they identify, how they dress, and what they're wearing. They got deeper problems than that, fam. And you and I, if we believe our Bibles and we know our Bibles, we should know that and act accordingly. But again, we're on YouTube. We need subscribers, so we're going to say things to kind of. So I get it. We want subscribers. We want people to watch our channel. So we're going to. But I'm not going to drum y'all up based on fear, fam. I'm not going to do that. I'm gonna try to stir you up based on faith. Like, calm down. Yes, that's crazy that they targeted Jesus. Shocking though? Nah, man. Who else they gonna target? On one level, and I'm gonna say this and I'm out. On one level, this is gonna sound probably weird. On one level, it's kind of like, why would you attack Jesus unless you knew it was the truth? Like, you don't attack things that you just aren't worried about, that are not a threat to you. You don't attack, like, why is Satan, why is this anti-Christian? Why is it demonic? Why is this satanic? You know why? Because that's his only opposition. Like, we're his only opposition. On one level, it's kind of like, when they say, like, when people talk about you, like, hate, like, I forgot the phrase, like, when people talk about you, it means they really respect you or whatever it is, them type of phrases, right? On one level, the fact that there's anti-Christian sentiment should help us to see, like, yeah, we believe the truth because we know the world that we live in. There's not anti-Muslim, anti-Buddhist, there may be Jewish, anti-Jewish sentiment, and that's connected to, again, Jews representing God's original people and so forth. I get it, right? But all the anti-Christian sentiment, for me personally, all it does is prove that what I believe is true. Because I know that the Satan is the God of this world, 2 Corinthians 4, and we do not wrestle with flesh and blood, Ephesians 6:12, right? That we have to know these things in order to know what world we live in. Satan's coming after the truth, right? He's coming after God. He's not coming after himself. So if they're attacking anti-Christian sentiment, they are actually proving that what we believe is true and that we're the real threat. And in that sense, I feel there's a level of, I don't want to say pride, like honor. There's a level of honor in that like, you're attacking my worldview and what I believe because it's the greatest threat to you. It's a threat to you. And that's because God is a threat to evil. And that's who the enemy is. So take that for what it's worth, fam. I'm glad to be in a place I can actually stream. I cannot believe that I was in like the die-fi. It was the death of, I couldn't believe it. I paid money to stay in this place for 4 days. Me and my sons, man, they was mad, man. We couldn't have it. That Wi-Fi was terrible. But it makes us appreciate the finer things. First world problems, right? All right. I'm out of here. I'll be back with some more videos. I got a lot of stuff to talk about, but I just wanted to hit this one off the break. My timing is off. Everything's off because I haven't been able to stream it. I'm still on the West Coast. I'm still 3 hours back, but I appreciate y'all. Until the next video, man. Peace.